What up, guys? It is Monday, August 24th, 2020. Hope you had a great weekend. American government class, it's been a little bit of a break since we last met last Thursday. So, as always, we're going to start off with a 5-minute review. Make sure you get all your notes out. You are absolutely allowed to use your notes on the 5-minute review. After that, we're going to finish our political theories notes. We still have to talk about social contract theory. After that, I'm going to give you today's assignment. And then I'm going to prep you for what I call a weekly review quiz. Starting this week, you're actually going to start having quizzes in this class that are going to count towards your grade. So, very important that you pay attention, not just to that, but to all the items on the agenda today. So, without further ado, meet me over at my home desk, and we'll start the 5-minute review. All right, guys, 5-minute review time. Let's get this show on the road. Not asking any individuals, just asking questions this time. See how many you can answer. Number 1, what do we call the people who were here before Columbus, quote unquote, discovered America? And what do we not call them? All right, please list 3 Native American tribes for me. Perfect. Who discovered America? Full name? And from what country where was he born? Is a better way of saying that. Where was he born? All right. What year did Columbus discover America? Excellent. And once Columbus got here with all the other explorers, why did so many Native Americans die? Give me 2 reasons. Excellent. Now, who is responsible? What country is responsible for colonizing the United States? And that's why we speak? Excellent. Now, name one out of these 4. Name the one that is not an original 13 colony. New York, Massachusetts, Texas, New Jersey. Good. Now, finally, what is the name of the theory that says kings get their power to rule from God? Excellent. That's what we studied last class. Divine right theory is closely associated with what type of government? What type of governments do we see that are most closely associated with divine right theory? Excellent. And finally, in divine right theory, what is the point of the people? Why do the people exist? Excellent. Now, moving on, let's go ahead and take a look at our notes for social contract theory. All right, guys, so here we go. We left off right here speaking about divine right theory and how that is all tied up in religion. That if you are a king and you have a son, that it was God's choice that that son should be the person who should rule. And the key thing there was that the people exist to serve the will of the king. That's their main job. They're there to serve the king because the king might even be a god. And this whole theory is most closely associated with monarchies across the world. Now, that is clearly not what we have today. And the change comes about around the 17th and 18th centuries with something called the Enlightenment and the Age of Reason. In the Enlightenment and the Age of Reason, if you recall, from a world history class, there were new discoveries in science, in medicine, and astronomy. People were starting to discover things that they didn't know. New things were being learned. Likewise, there weren't only just new discoveries, but there were new ideas in religion, in philosophy, and in government. And some of those people who were most important in coming up with those ideas were the following people: John Locke, who was from England, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, who was from France, and Thomas Hobbes, who was from England as well. These 3 people, not together, but separately, came up with a lot of ideas that have influenced our governments that we still have today. And basically, what they said was enough of this king stuff. The people shouldn't exist to serve the king. And in fact, humans, no matter whether you're a king or not, are born with natural rights. And those three natural rights that they talked about were life, liberty, and property. That meaning that if you are born, no matter who you are, you have the right to live. You also have the right to liberty, which is freedom. If you are on this earth, you should be able to be free. And finally, the right to have property. You should be able to live on this earth, you should be able to be free, and you should be able to have things of your own and not have to give everything away to a king or live for a king. However, they understood something very important, that the state of nature is brutal, and that for the longest time, and even still today, we live under the idea of survival of the fittest. What does that mean? That means, hey, whoever's the smartest, whoever's the most well prepared, whoever is the most fit for the current situation will survive longer than the others who are not. And part of this, as we scroll down, is that there is no government to protect one person from the aggression of the other. This means if somebody's stronger than you and wants to take something from you, all they have to do is fight you, and there's nobody there to protect you. So they argue that the people agree to form government because we need it. If we didn't, we would just have people all the time who are the strongest, not necessarily the smartest, taking over and doing whatever they wanted and taking away and infringing upon the rights of other people. John Locke says this is where people enter into a social contract with the state. Social contract. Now, what is a contract? Maybe you've heard of a contract before. If you buy a car, you have to usually sign a contract. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. There are different contracts and there are different responsibilities for contracts. In this case, as we scroll down a little bit more to give us some more room, in this social contract, there are two sides. The first side is, delete that, get that out of here. The first side of the contract is the people. And the people in a state agree to give up to the state as much power as needed to promote the safety of all. And what that means is they give our consent to be governed and agree to obey the law for the common good. So what does that mean? Well, a real life example is there anything stopping you from hopping in a car right now and driving down the street at 100 miles per hour? Well, sure, the law. And that's the point of the law. We agree to follow the law to protect everybody else. We say we will gladly obey your rules or obey the law for the common good of the people. Now, we said a contract has two sides. So the other side is the side of the state. And the side of the state, they agree to maintain order and protect the people and their rights, as long as the people agree to obey the law. So this is similar to a contract where if you buy a car or if you buy a house, there's a contract where the person who's buying it agrees to make payments, whether it's to a car company or to a housing company. And in return, the housing company or the car company will build them and give them a car or a house. Now, what happens if you sign a contract and you don't pay the housing company or if you don't pay the car company? Well, if either party breaks the contract, then the contract is void. And that's similar to social contract theory. The idea that if either the people or the state break the contract, then nobody has to follow those rules anymore. And what does that look like? Well, if the people don't obey the law, then the government is no longer obligated to protect them. And if the government becomes abusive of our rights and doesn't protect us, we no longer have to obey the government, and you no longer have to follow the law. Now, this is very, very important, because when this happens, this is where you see revolutions. When people in a state are oppressed, or when they're taken advantage of and they don't have rights, if the government is no longer protecting them, it is the people's responsibility to have a revolution and revolt, not following the law and not obeying them. Now, there are three final things with social contract theory. The first is that in this theory of how government should work, the people are the source of the political power. Not a king, not a queen, not a crown or a throne, but the people. The people get to choose their government. They get to choose who they vote for. They get to choose who gets the job of leader and who gets to be in the state. They are the sole source of the political power. And if this sounds familiar, that's because it's exactly the type of government that we have today. And social contract theory is most closely associated with democracy. And that's what we have in America. We have a representative democracy. Democracy, as you should know from your vocab, means people have the power. It's a government where the people have the power. And the final point on social contract theory is that it's the exact opposite of divine right theory when it comes to the people. If you recall, in divine right theory, why do the people exist? Well, they exist to serve the king. In social contract theory, it's the exact opposite. The state exists to serve the will of the people. All right, ladies and gentlemen, great job on those notes. Today, for your assignment, all you're going to do is exactly what you did last class. Send me a picture of the completion of our political theories notes. I know some of you did them on paper last class, so if you added today's notes to the paper, that's totally fine. If you used the handout that I sent you, that's fine as well. Just make sure that you send me a picture of those notes for today's assignment and participation. Finally, our weekly review quiz prep. Starting this week, you guys are going to have weekly quizzes. They will be on the last class of the week. So this week, you have a quiz Friday. Next week, it'll be Thursday, and they alternate since we have A days and B days. Whatever class we have last in the week, you will have a quiz, and it'll be a 10-question quiz with 3 bonus questions that covers everything that we've talked about over the past week or two. Once we get into the 4th or 5th weekly review quizzes, you still might see a few of those questions from week 1 and week 2 pop up because we don't want you to forget anything. So it's very important that the notes we're taking and the assignments you're doing, you're paying attention and learning from those because you're going to be quizzed on them, and that's going to have a direct effect on your grade. So, this week, quiz on Friday, that's 2 classes away. If you have any questions about anything we went over today, always email me. I'll put the email up at the end of this video. If you have any questions about quizzes, assignments, anything at all, always email me. I'm here. I'm waiting for you. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. We'll see you on Wednesday.